At this time, we're back. Eric DeSobe here, joined by Ashlee Fletcher. Ashlee and I work together at KIPP. Ashlee, how many interviews do you think you've done in your interviewing career?
Oh wow. I mean, I've been here like 6 years, so I would say each year is probably like 150 to 200 or so, or somewhere around
Yeah.
there. So yeah, multiply that by 6 years or so. Yeah, a lot of phone calls, a lot
What
of
do you feel like,
interacting.
what do you feel like you listen for the most these days after all your years of experience?
Yeah, I think I listen for um, the connection to KIPP and our mission. I know that's really big for our school leaders, for our hiring managers. So that's one that I really kind of zero in on towards the end of each interview, and I like to make sure that I'm kind of gathering that information so that I can pass that on to hiring managers. So yeah, I would say like that mission alignment, and then passion for, of course, the work directly with students, because a lot of the roles I'm recruiting for, you're connecting with students directly. So I'm looking for that passion and excitement for connecting with students too.
And you recruit for a lot of, I guess, technical roles is the right way to do it. There, people think technical sometimes is like IT or
Mhm.
engineers, but for us, technical is student services and
Mhm.
speech and these kind of things. When you have very technical roles, like how do you design trying to figure out if people are actually qualified to do the thing that we want them to do?
Yeah, I think there's a mix of being very aligned with my hiring managers and the folks that I'm working with. So being aligned with them on what they're looking for. I had to do a lot of that on the front end, especially with student services. So roles like counselor and school psychologist, didn't really know too much about what was really required for those roles. So I really had to get aligned with what we're looking for, the experiences that we're looking for, and then connecting that with, then as I'm talking to a candidate, being able to probe a little bit more if someone's giving me a very like surface level answer, or very something very general, being able to probe a little bit deeper so that I can see, what that how that experience aligns to what we're actually looking for.
And when you think about a candidate experience, you've been really successful making connections with candidates as they go through a process. How do you think through making that experience enjoyable for people or memorable for people in a good way? What's been your secret to your success there?
Yeah, I think for me, just being really personable, and uh, I think I think something that's important too, at when I first came into this role, I'd come out of like a somewhat long job search. So I really connected to candidates. And with sometimes there's a lot of frustration. There's, the market may not be good at that time, or, you're struggling to, get callbacks. So I think for me, I like to give candidates a lot of grace, and also, be patient with them in the process, be personable, make them feel comfortable. Like if I've had folks that are on the phone, like, oh, I'm nervous, or I'm not sure about this. And, just making them feel comfortable throughout the process, not only in the interview, but then as I'm like walking them through the process, so that so this can be like a really comfortable experience for them. And ultimately, hopefully that lends to them wanting to accept the offer. They've had a good experience throughout. They've, built a connection with me. So yeah, I think that making them feel comfortable throughout the process and just being really personable is really helpful.
Do your friends or family ask you for advice on how to apply for jobs, look for jobs? If so, what kind of things do you tell them to do most often?
Yeah, actually, recently, my a couple of family members, my sister, she's working on her degree right now, and she was working through trying to get an internship within like social work and everything. And we actually worked on revamping her resume, so we were doing a little bit of that in like November, and kind of like working through her resume and what that looks like, and aligning that to. She's a certified nursing assistant, so I've recruited for that role. So, working with her on what I see on resumes and what I see on applications was really helpful. And then my uncle a few months ago was kind of in the job hunt process, and I think for him it was more of like advice on his frustrations with like not getting callbacks, and it's taking really long. Like he had a job for, of course, years, and was kind of transitioning, and so this was new to him, and he's like, just really frustrated. So a lot of it was just like advice around, patience with the process, and giving him advice on maybe there were red flags with certain companies that I, was hearing. He's in tech, so very different from what I recruit for, but I was able to give him a lot of general advice on just, from a recruiter's perspective, what things look like for us.
When you see resumes, cover letters, all the different parts of the application that we require, what advice do you want to give people to stop doing? Anything that drives you craziest, or you wish would be a trend that would fade away, or a fad that would fade out?
Yeah, I think on resumes specifically, and I actually was talking to someone about this the other day, when folks don't if you're applying actively applying for jobs, make sure you're taking a look at your resume, and it should be updated. I had someone that they said they were presently at three different jobs,
Oh,
and I
nice.
was like, oh, at three different companies. Wow. I mean, so I reached out to them, and they were like, oh, so sorry, that was an error, and fixed it, and we moved forward. I was able to move them forward, but I don't want that to reflect poorly on them later if a hiring manager takes a look at that, and asks about that. So I would say, definitely taking a look at your resume, making sure it's clean, crisp. There aren't any major errors, as far as like the timing of things. And then I think, in general, just like for the process, folks who maybe I want folks to make sure they do their research on the company, or the organization that they're applying to. I've definitely had a lot of calls where, I know on our end, we prepare folks. We try to send them links to say, hey, check this out, read up on us, get to know us, before our call. But I have had folks who haven't done that, and it's fine. That can kind of talk them through and help them learn a little bit more about KIPP. But I think it's great when folks come with that excitement, and they've looked at videos, and they come with that excitement and that mission alignment already there.
Our team is doing more and more video interviews early stage before we talk to people on the phone. Any advice for folks on how they should navigate a video interview? Because that's something I think
Hmm.
is going to be probably standard for job processes going
Yeah.
forward in all sorts of different industries. How would you advise people to stand out in something like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, similar, like making sure you're doing your research. I know for a lot of my questions end with like mission alignment, so making sure they're doing their research on the company, and or the organization. And I think, also, I know it can be. I feel like some folks, it can be nerve wracking to think about doing a video interview versus a phone interview. So I think, folks maybe just taking their time to process the questions. We give them think time. Take your time through the interview, and make sure that you're giving the best responses, and or even, I know they can't practice because they don't know the questions, but maybe they can jot some things down, ahead of time, to kind of just have some notes, around what they may be responding to in the video interview.
Last thing, what roles do you have open right now that you'd want folks to know about or to check out?
Yeah. So on the operations side, we have a role called Assistant School Leader of Operations. So that's a big leadership role at each of our schools. So we have a couple of those openings. We're looking for folks who have a lot of, school leadership experience, and operations experience, management experience, managing large teams and projects. So I'm really excited to recruit for those roles. And then on the student services side, we do have some counseling positions, and also some of our, more specialized services roles, like speech language assistant. So always looking for strong folks to step into that role, as it is a very important role that supports our speech language pathologists.
Nice. And if folks want to find you out in the world, what's the best way to do that? LinkedIn, other ways? What do you think?
Yeah, LinkedIn. Folks can email me as well directly, afletcher@kipsocal.org, if you want to learn about positions, and I'm happy to hop on informational calls to talk about very specific roles. So yeah, LinkedIn, or dropping me an email, and we can connect there.
Nice. We'll put that info in the episode description. Ashlee, thanks for coming on. Everyone, thanks for listening. Glad to be back for 2026 with another amazing set of talent folks talking about their talent worlds. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.